represent the agency role in the process if you should choose to use an agency. John Weltman is the director and founder of Circle Surrogacy in Boston, and he's a regular here at this event. So I thank him for making that trip again. And John.
Thank you, Terry. I just want to point out that when my husband and I of 25 years started this process in 1991, we actually turned to the center to get our information. And it was from here that we got the information about the only two agencies in the country, neither of which still exist, that were then working with gay men. I am actually a dad of two boys. My husband and I have one each through the same surrogate mom. They are 13 and a half and 12. And I've been running this agency for about 12 years, and I support everything that Melissa just said. I would tell you that just as Melissa is also an agency, I am also a lawyer. When Melissa's already talked a little bit about how people screen, but just to give you an idea, we will find more than 30 women for every one carrier who passes our screening. We will be looking at many of the same women that you look at online. We'll be looking at advertisements we place regularly in Massachusetts, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and elsewhere. We will be responding to women who are friends of surrogates. We'll even be rescreening surrogates who've done it before in other programs and even in our own programs. But by the time we end that process, we are only picking 1 out of 30 of those women. And that is in part due to a myriad of facts. One that Melissa's already talked about is the state that they come from. No New York, no New Jersey, no Florida for a gay couple, no Texas or Oklahoma for a gay couple, etc. They need to be a woman who's had a child. Many women who haven't had a child would like to do this for you. A number of lesbians would like to do it for you if they've never had a child. Unless they've had a child, we don't know their birth history. We don't know if they can deliver. We don't know if they're fertile. We don't know if they will have an uncomplicated pregnancy, and that is hugely important. In addition, we look at their home life. Do they have a support system? Some people would prefer to work with a single woman. In fact, for our couples from England, they need to work with a single woman because the English system will deem the father, the husband, to be the father of the child if they weren't to work with a single woman. But nevertheless, single women can have support systems. They can have friends. They can have parents. We need to talk to those support systems. Those support systems themselves need to be screened and need to be supportive. And the added factor is the husband going to be comfortable with her working with a gay couple. When we started this program 12 years ago, I think I said to the New York Times when we recorded, 1 in 10 women would work with us who wanted to work with a gay couple or single. Now I find 8 in 10 women were willing to work with a gay couple, but more than half of those would prefer to work with a gay couple because of a whole history of wonderful relationships that they found working with gay couples because they don't have the history of infertility that can be very painful to have to deal with, and the issues of control that I think some women feel like, it didn't work for them, so they'd really like to tell the surrogate everything and how to do it. And so gay men are just like, know how to treat a woman. we know how to say thank you and send flowers, and we also know we can't do that ourselves. There are a whole series of other things. There are the criminal and background checks that Melissa talked about, but just as important, the doctor from RMA will talk to you about the fact that they do a very intensive medical screening on these women and on their husbands. And those involve such things as all the sexually transmitted disease, but also things like, do they smoke? Is there nicotine in their system? Do they take any alcohol or drugs? And the same thing about their husbands, making sure that they're not going to get abused. All these factors, not the least of which are the insurance issues that come to bear. Is this a woman for whom I can say to you, she's got insurance that has no exclusion whatsoever, and you're comfortable because in my program, nobody's paid more than $5,000, and that's only happened once in 12 years. Generally speaking, if you want 100% security, there is the Lloyd's of London policy. But it's a $25,000 potential dollar option. That's a very expensive option, so we look for others. But it's our job, our names on the line, our liabilities on the hook to make that determination for you. So those are the kinds of things that we look at when we do initial screenings with carriers, and we can talk to you also about you personally. Because no one's going to walk through my program, and I don't believe Melissa's or anybody else's, without saying, does it work for you? I have a relationship today, 15 years after I met my surrogate, that still remains and is a wonderful friendship, and I care enormously about her. We talk 3 or 4 times a year. The kids see her every other year, and she's out in California. But it is a wonderful, wonderful relationship. It's been very meaningful for my children in terms of their comfort with themselves and their comfort with how they came into the world to have that relationship. So it's important that this be the kind of person that will work well with you, whether it be about how much contact you want to have, or where she lives, or what kind of a person is she. And what are her interests and comments, so that we match you for what you're looking for. Not the least of which is how you feel about selective reproduction, how you feel about abortion. The issue that comes up more often than not in our program, and I think one of the reasons that people choose us over other programs, is the issue of known versus anonymous donation. Most of the gay men in our program, and we're about 90+% gay men, choose known donation. One of the advantages of it is, first, what I call the kick the tires meeting. No matter how much you see on video, no matter how much you see in a piece of paper, is she really as pretty as she looks? Is she as articulate and smart as she sounds on paper or in the video? But the other thing that I think is more important is you don't know your kids today. And I know that there are kids out there on the internet now at 15 years of age swabbing their cheeks, sending it into a DNA lab, and finding their donor siblings or even their donor. If that donor isn't aware that this could happen, she might slam the door in their face. But if she's aware that it could happen and you've had a conversation and it's in your control because the legal stuff is done, it's all your baby, whether you're a single person and done a single parent adoption or a couple and done a second parent adoption, it's your baby. There's no rights she has. But if you want to and your kid wants to, this is someone they can meet. And this can do what it did for my kids. Because when we went out first to meet Susan, our greatest fear was if they liked her, she was in California, they'd miss her. If they didn't like her, it would be incredibly disappointing. Instead, they liked her enormously, and it just dispelled the mystery. We were their family. And it just took all that tension away. And I think enormously to this day, my friends are constantly asking me, how's it been for my kids being raised in a gay family? And the answer is, that part of their lives is just a non-issue. We picked the school carefully, but most of all, we were honest with them from the outset, and their biological mother was honest with them from the outset. She feels so good about what she did. I had a fight with her the last time I was with her about who got more out of the surrogacy, me because I have 2 kids, or she because she did the best thing she's ever done in her life. And I think that kind of feeling is tremendously important to build in this process. In terms of costs, the costs vary between agencies. In our agency, we tell people by the time you're done, not just with the agency, not just with the legal work, not just with the social work, not just with the doctor, but with everything, it should be between $100,000 and $110,000. Now that is telling you no one from my program yet has signed up with the Lloyds of London process. So that's going to add another $10,000 to $25,000 if you were to do it. But so far we have been able to find alternatives or the surrogate's own insurance in every instance so far that's been satisfactory. But we do anticipate that this is going to be more of an issue, and for anybody who wants it, that's fine. A year and a half is a pretty good sense of what it should be from the time you sign up with a program to the time you have a baby. I think that I know that there's been discussion about the independent arrangement. And I am all in favor of people who have a special friend, who have a sister, who have anybody they know to do surrogacy for them. And I even think there are some websites that do a wonderful job from whom we ourselves find surrogates from time to time. But please follow Melissa's advice. If you're going to do that, even with a sister, follow the contract. The contract is the binding document. The governing law on this subject will tell you you don't have a tiebreaker unless you've got that agreement. You don't have a way to determine who gets the child unless you have that agreement. It is the key with both the donor and the carrier. It's very important. And screening and psychological support is hugely important.